welcome back to Intuitive Insight with me, SomRa Re'Zhae, and
Re'Zhae.
welcome, Re'Zhae. And we are so glad to share with you today some more information about the insights that we get that help people to heal, grow, transform, and progress on their paths, really change their lives for the better. One of the things that we didn't mention last time, we kind of touched upon it, is what really draws you to this work, Re'Zhae. So I do healing facilitation, transformational work. I teach classes, that sort of thing. And Re'Zhae is a very, very gifted psychic intuitive and can provide lots of details and information that's needed, puzzle pieces to what's causing an issue or what's blocking a goal in your life. And one of the things that really motivates you, Re'Zhae, is that when you were needing healing, you had me along the journey when your unconscious trauma was coming forward, and I was helping you through that process. But I also recommended seeing a therapist and some other things as well. And you had some crazy experiences that were not helpful. Is there any that you want to share about that motivates you
Yeah,
to want to give
sure.
good, say again?
I said, yeah, sure. I definitely have some experiences with that. That definitely led me want to get into this work because I know as someone who is struggling and needing help, how much not help that there is. Like a therapist who thinks that they're doing good, but they're just clinical. They're not feeling, they're not intuitive. That's just very by the book, not helpful. And then at one point, I was doing EMDR therapy with someone, and I guess the things that were coming up in my session was triggering them, making them very upset. So they pretty much got me into the middle of my EMDR session, and they freaked out and needed to take a break. So they left me freaking out because they stopped in the middle. They told me to go to the bathroom, throw some cold water on my face, see what I could do. Yeah, yeah. If it wasn't, I immediately left, got in the parking lot, and I called you and Daddy because I was freaking out, and that therapist just left me hanging. And I was like, wow, if I didn't have y'all to help me out, like what would have happened? What happens if just a normal person who doesn't have access to someone that has alternative therapy is what I usually end up calling it, what would have happened? Would they have just been stuck in that phase, of like the freak out you didn't get to fully process. You're just right in the middle. Um, yeah. And besides that, I've definitely had a lot of other therapists that I've talked to that were not helpful. They were just, let's talk about your issues. I'm like, okay, so what do we do to fix it? Oh, we're just gonna talk about it. We're just talking
Wow.
about it. I'm like, okay, so talking about it, is getting me into an emotional place where like I need some kind of facilitation, and you're just like, yeah, that's it. We're just gonna talk. We're just gonna talk. If you want some pills, we'll throw some pills at you. I'm definitely against medication. I do not like taking medicine at all. So no, I didn't want antidepressants. I didn't want any of that stuff. I just wanted to heal. And it seems like in the therapy community out there, that's just not really a thing. They're not concerned with healing. They're concerned with putting a band-aid on your problem. Let's put a band-aid on it and that'll skate you by.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate because so many people could be helped if, number one, they knew that practitioners like us exist, and number two, if they're open to it. A lot of people aren't open to it yet, so they're not ready. But those of you listening who are looking for real assistance, real healing, real transformation, that is what we do. That is what we focus on. And so it does require getting real. It does require seeing and knowing some things about yourself and your history that you didn't know were there that may be unpleasant, but we do our best to help you move through those feelings and clear them out of your system. So a lot of people are afraid of their buried trauma or what might be there. They can feel that intense energy, but we know how to move that intense energy through. You're not just stuck in it. And that's the point. It's not just bringing up stuff and you're re traumatized. It's an energy that's in your energy field and in your nervous system that needs to come out. And sometimes that involves shaking. Both Re'Zhae and I have experienced that many times in healing our traumas, right?
Yeah, you feel all kinds of interesting things.
Yeah, but it's not the end of the world, and it doesn't have to be as scary as it seems, especially when you are working with people who have been through it themselves. We're not just going by book knowledge. Now, I have a ton of education, certifications, and all of that in my profession, and brain research training and so forth. But where the bulk of the transformation is that I can offer people in the space I can hold comes from my own healing, comes from my own transformation. And having done that, having gone through the deepest, darkest pains and traumas and abuses that I uncovered from my unconscious and healed it, I hold a vast capacity to hear and help people process all kinds of crazy stuff because it's pretty shocking what's going on out there and is under the surface and unknown to most of the populace, although a lot of it's coming more forward, like human trafficking, satanic ritual abuse, as well as regular sexual abuse. What's regular about it? But common. And family members, neighbors, not strangers. It's usually not strangers. And that's what the research shows as well. The scientific research is most of these things happen from family members or people who are close to the family, unfortunately and sadly. But all of that stuff is resolvable, and trying to suppress those memories, if you're conscious of them, doesn't help you. And they're going to come out through health issues. They're going to come out through relationship issues. They're going to come out through circumstantial issues. And they can limit things like your abundance and prosperity. They can limit your ability to connect with others on a true heart level. So these are the things you have to look forward to in your healing process, because with every trauma that's locked away, with every distressing situation you experience, and they're all floating in the aura, and we perceive those, there also is gold in there. There are gems, there's gifts, there's beauty about you, there's joy and peace that you locked away with it. And that's really the unfortunate thing. And when you open those packets, though, and release that difficult energy that's there, become aware and bring it into the consciousness, well, you get parts of you back, your real self, your pure and innocent self, your gifts, your joys, and so forth. And we talked about that in our last episode, how my metaphysical abilities opened up more, and definitely yours did, Re'Zhae, right?
Right.
Yeah, because she was born with this gift of psychic intuitive ability and suppressed it because was told that it's not good, it's bad, it's of the devil, and all of that from her other side of the family. I'm her stepmom, and I've known her since she was 9 years old and was able to help rectify a lot of that crap. And now it's like, this is just natural. You reclaim more of your natural self after you've done a lot of healing. Is there anything else you want to share about that, Re'Zhae?
I was just gonna say, people don't realize how much this stuff affects them until you go through and heal it. Because I remember how shocked I was about how all of these things that are like running in the background were affecting me, and the decisions I made, like things that were happening in my life. All of it was all due to things that had happened in my past, and I was like, wow, that was pretty shocking. And also, all of the stuff that I've learned through school and otherwise never ever helped as much as my personal experience and going through everything and resolving things. And it's made me a lot more open and able to help other people because I'm not scared. Like whatever you have going on, it's not going to scare me. And especially with all the people that we've worked with, and people think like, wow, this is just so bad. It's like, no, it's not as bad as you think. There's always someone else out there that's been through worse, but you have to not be afraid of it. So we don't run into that problem that I had with my therapist that was so freaked out about stuff that was coming out of me that they were having their own issues and they needed to have a session. So
Yeah, exactly. And folks, if you're interested in this, it's like you need to be at a certain level of readiness, because what we provide is straightforward. We don't sugarcoat it. We try to ease you into it if we feel that it's going to be shocking. And we're also kind of in tune with your soul. We're listening to your guides. It's all a higher team is working with us simultaneously, and your angels and holding that energetic support. But before you work with us, you do need to understand and be at a level of readiness to know that this is that we're getting to the truth, even if it hurts sometimes. To know the hurt is you. It comes from being attached to seeing mommy, daddy, brother, sister, grandpa, grandma, whatever it is, a certain way your whole life. Because what a child does is when they experience trauma by anyone, but especially a family member, and they have to live with that person, the child will usually wall that off and sometimes even creates fantasies about the family member. Like, they really do love me, or will only section out the memories that were positive and or that the child saw as positive and even amp up those fantasies, like, sometimes the parent really didn't love you, they were faking it because they were more interested in, you're here for me, talking to the child, and I'm going to use you. Now, of course, this isn't all family members or all parents, but we do see that a lot. And we also see that parents and various ones in the child's history who, we're working with the adult of the child now, has different parts of self. And so they might pop up and do this awful thing like a sexual abuse, but then in other areas of the interaction throughout growing up, that parent, shows compassion, and it can be very confusing, and it can be confusing for the mind to sort that out. So we have processes that help you sort that out because we've been through it ourselves, so that you don't have to keep blocking off what you need to know in order to heal and transform that had to do with that person. And also, we provide the backstory of why that person did those things, like what was going on in their psyche, especially if you want to know, were they abused? Which, yes, they were. If they did it to you, something happened to them. And just understanding more about it, not in the sense of trying to forgive and all that superficial stuff. It's more just understanding the lineage that's passed down and why humanity is so screwed up, why these things are going on. And as each of us heals this stuff and really looks it square in the face in our own personal lives, and then transforms it, we help transform all of humanity because there's a collective consciousness of humanity, and everything that each of us heals and transforms and integrates, reunites, however you define it. There's lots of levels in a transformation process. But every time we do that, that puts information into the database of the collective consciousness. And so what that does then is makes it easier for others throughout the world to tap into that consciously or unconsciously and do that transformation themselves, which is really cool. And that's what we're here for, especially those of you who are light workers, star seeds. You're from somewhere else, or you just consider yourself a spiritual seeker. This is an integral part of that journey. So there's something you mentioned a few minutes ago, Re'Zhae. It was EMDR. So that stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And that is one of the most awesome, profound, transformational tools to help you move through trauma energy quickly and easily. Now, a lot of therapists, well, I won't say a lot, but there are many therapists who are trained in it. The therapy world kind of owns it. So we're not professional therapists in a licensed kind of way. We are personal growth, healing growth, transformational facilitators. So we have experienced a lot of EMDR ourselves that helped us. And basically, it involves certain eye movements. And in those eye movements, while you're thinking about the trauma or the event, it helps to basically take those events from a file folder in your psyche that says danger, terrible, stay away, and moves it into a different file folder that says, okay, the trauma's over now and I'm safe. Because basically, as children, we didn't get to process those traumas. So they just are still running energetically in our field and in our psyches. It gets imprinted in our DNA, and we have health problems a lot of times that relate to it, odd pains, aches, what people call ascension symptoms. That's actually trauma trying to come up. A lot of people think it's just random stuff. Nothing is random. What we have found is that the body remembers everything. The body remembers, it has no filter. So the psyche can wall off and create all kinds of tricks and fantasies and stuff around the situation to try to make it okay psychologically to handle the situation and continue on as a child. But the body will hold that, and that manifests as tension that you don't even become aware of, you've been holding your whole life. um, Different health issues, of course, and so forth. So we sometimes, people will come to us with those health issues. That's a great way to start working with us. Like, I've got this condition or I have this weird thing. And then we look into it and go, okay, where does this come from? What's the origin? What's the cause? And then we provide more puzzle pieces and healing along the way to help unravel that. Things that have been, you've been stuck with for a long time can actually heal fairly quickly. Sometimes there's, and usually there are many layers to an issue. So we peel away as much as we can. Sometimes it takes more than one session, of course, because there's lots and lots of layers, because you believed things about yourself as a result of those experiences, believe things that aren't true, negating self beliefs like I'm not good enough, I must not deserve kindness, I must not deserve love and abundance, just all kinds of, that's where a lot of these beliefs come from. And beliefs you don't even know about, like core beliefs like I'm not enough, I'm not good enough. And you're like, where does that come from? It comes from somewhere. So we do our best to help provide those puzzle pieces for you and help unravel that layer by layer by layer. Is there anything you want to share about that, Renee?
Yeah, that's pretty much, what we do, help people unravel those layers. You just have to be willing and open, because if not, you hit a lot of roadblocks and that makes things a little more difficult and it drags out the process. There's not always going to be times, though. I mean, you could be open and willing and think you are, and there's still going to be roadblocks and walls up, which we know how to work around those. So, no problem there, just letting you know what to expect. Sometimes that may happen.
Yeah, and sometimes the soul doesn't want you to know yet, or and our guides will communicate that to us and tell us what we can share in the moment. You need to do some processing. We share what that is, some healing on your own, come back, then we can provide more puzzle pieces. Sometimes while we're working with someone, when the truth is coming forward, the if it's an abuse situation, for instance, that abuser who maybe passed away or alive for that matter, because there's all kinds of energetic cords between people, but let's just talk about passed away at the moment, they can start to come in and try to interfere and try to block us. So we actually have had to deal with that many times, and we know what to do. And also, if someone in your current life is still alive, they actually are unconsciously influencing you. So there's all kinds of stuff happening energetically in the background that most people have no idea about. Doesn't matter where that relative is, doesn't matter if you've not spoken with them in 20 years, their energy can still be influencing you. So, in the process of working with us, we also help to extract that energy as much as possible and help heal the part of you that's holding on to that, because there's always something inside of you. It's not just that you're being psychically attacked or however you think of it. It can't happen unless there is something inside of you that still is inviting it or allowing it. And that's usually very unconscious. Who wants that? And so we work to help you come to realize what's down in your unconscious that's allowing that and how to transform it. So that's never affecting you anymore. Sounds pretty cool, right, Re'Zhae?
Right. It is. It is a really cool process.
Yep. So we've had to deal with it on our for ourselves. And so we know what it's like from the inside for sure. Also, you mentioned about, working with therapists and they talk about medication. It's like that's kind of the overall conventional culture in psychiatry and psychology, even is to just give medication, which doesn't heal anything. In fact, it actually suppresses certain things and can really delay your healing. Is there something you want to share about that?
Yeah, it definitely delays your healing. I know that there's a lot of people that I've come across, though, that's all they want. They just make it go away. I don't care. But when you're done, I mean, you can't have the medicine for your entire life. Eventually, you're going to have to get off of it. The doctor is going to take you off of it. And guess what? Those problems are still there. And now they're going to come back even more because you've suppressed a part of you for so long. When you can feel that again, it's going to be pretty overwhelming. It's so much easier. Well, I say easier. To me, it's easier to go ahead, deal with the difficult time, the short, difficult time, and then actually be healed and done with it versus putting it off for years and just having a much bigger problem to deal with. And then, not to speak of even the side effects of these medications and coming off of them, because I have a friend who every once in a while he forgets to take his meds or go on a trip, forget them, and then he feels horrible. Just all these different side effects that happen, and you don't have to do that. You could do things naturally, go ahead and heal it, and then feel good instead of having to deal with things like that. And then, of course, when you do get off of it, you have to stair step off of it because that's how much, it's not good for you. And as soon as you take it out of your system, it puts you kind of in a shock. So, yeah, much, much better ways to go about those things. As someone who's seen all of that in school and otherwise, I'm like, I just don't agree with that because I know there's a better way. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't know or they're just not willing to go there.
Yeah, yeah, and they're definitely not ready for anything that we offer about getting real, and that's okay. If that's where a person is, that's where they are. We're not judging anybody. We're just sharing our personal experience. We're not say giving out medical advice. Got to say that disclaimer.
Mm-hmm.
This is we're just sharing directly from what we've experienced with ourselves and others. You make the choice, and occasionally, if you do need some sort of medication to help ease the process, that's understandable, and it's not your only option. And you still can get to the truth if you need to back it off a little bit. However, we have a lot of experience in holistic healing, particularly me. That was my foundation and my training. I was a licensed bodywork therapist for 30 years. And I that was kind of like the focus of my work, all into natural health healing. I worked at health food stores and about supplements. So there are alternatives. I'm not an expert in that area, but there are things that we can recommend or point you to. And we didn't have the internet back in that day for me, but a lot of stuff you can find on the internet that we can point you to find out more information on how to supplement to help ease into that process if stuff's coming up. Another interesting point here that we discovered is that people who were seeing us were like, oh, I've been seeing psychics and healers for years and they've never said this stuff. Well, number one, you may not have been ready to process what this deeper trauma stuff is. But number two, what we have found is that a lot of healers, psychics, intuitives, teachers, spiritual teachers haven't even processed their own unconscious trauma, don't even know it's there. Just being on planet Earth is traumatic. Being born is traumatic. There's something called birth trauma, and you can heal that. But you can't get by on Earth without experiencing trauma. Trauma is there's big T trauma like abuse and death of a family member, things like that. And there's what's called little T trauma, which is subtler sometimes, but it's like, that disapproving look that your mother gave you when you weren't doing what she wanted, you weren't behaving, those types of things, which, by the way, a child misbehaving, actually, that comes from something. From my point of view, there's no such thing as a child misbehaving. There's a reason why they're trying to move an energy out that's a conflict inside themselves. And it's more than just trying to get attention. There's a lot more going on there. So we can help provide those puzzle pieces as well. So even the little T traumas, they're stored in your aura. Not getting the Christmas presents you wanted or were expecting. A trauma is often defined by the acronym UDIN, which UDIN, which is something that's unexpected, dramatic, isolating, and there's no help in the moment, and no help to process through your feelings. And from a child's point of view, these things are happening all the time, sometimes all day long. There's little traumas all day long, not being seen, not being heard, not being understood, being misunderstood. All of that goes in to a child's development. And before the age of 6, a child mind is in a hypnotic state, basically theta brainwave level, operating at theta brainwave level, which is different from a teenager and an adult. Teenagers alpha, or 7 to 14, is alpha brainwave level, and then after 14 is beta, which is an on. This is basically adult level. Theta brainwave level is a hypnagogic state where basically everything you hear and see and the energies as well you're feeling, because children are very perceptive, all goes right in. You have no filters to block that out or say, that's not right for me, or that's not true for me. For the most part, that is the case. So, boom, this is all going into your field and it stays stuck there. Just because somebody gives you an ice cream cone or a treat after an upset doesn't mean that you're resolved. Even if you seem fine afterwards, if a child does, that's now another moment. Children live in the moment. So the moment they experience something traumatic, like say getting a shot at the doctor or anything like that, being hit by their sibling, that gets locked into the aura and is stuck there until it gets resolved. Now, you don't have to know about every single one, but there are some that you do need to know about. And that's where we come in handy, because if you've been working on something, a health issue or something else or a goal, and you're not getting any results, you've been working a long time, there's something unconscious you need to get at. And we're happy to help if you're ready to know the truth, no matter what it means. Is there anything you want to share about that, Re'Zhae?
Yeah, that's what we do. Help to get to those unconscious parts and help people resolve it, and that makes a world of difference. As someone who's done it many a times, and just like you have, it makes a world of difference, and it can happen really quickly sometimes, and that's very helpful.
And that reminds me, I want to talk about a couple of cases that we had before we wrap up today. And one is really memorable. A friend of yours had a daughter who was 4 years old and just suddenly out of the blue had this weird rash forming on her back. It was like from her rear end all the way up. And so she took her to the doctor. The doctor didn't know what it was, but just didn't even know if it was contagious or not, as I recall. But mother contacted us for help. And actually, I was able to see it first, Re'Zhae. I think you were pretty close to the mother. And so it was hard for you to see at the moment. And I was like, okay, I got this flash vision of when she was 2, the family was moving and they had help, men come in and help uh, move all the boxes and everything. And one of the men grabbed her crotch just really quickly. The little girl, the 2 year old's crotch. That's his issue. Sad these things happen. But what that did was boom, that set up, that was a traumatic experience for the child, more what I call confusion trauma. This isn't talked about very much, but I see this a lot where a child aspect is stuck in the aura, stuck in confusion. It's like, why did that happen? I don't understand why that happened. What does that mean? Why did they do that? And it just keeps playing and playing for years and years and years until it's addressed. It's discovered and addressed. Well, I didn't get all those details. I think actually I just saw that a man had grabbed her. I saw he had black hair. And anyway, then you and I began delving deeper, and you got more of the puzzle pieces and saw that it was that the family was during a moving experience to a new house. Anyway, what we did then was we went in and talked to the 2 year old aspect that experienced that trauma and told her, explained to her, help resolve the confusion. It's like, it's okay. It's just that guy was messed up. You don't have to figure this out. It's okay. You're safe now. And it's just his stuff. He's messed up. See, a child doesn't understand it. Well, within pretty much two days, I'm pretty sure, as I recall, that rash was completely gone. You remember that, Re'Zhae?
Yeah, I do.
And that was so awesome. Now, children often heal faster, but we even get those results sometimes with adults. And certainly I did, as you were providing puzzle pieces for me and healing my trauma. And I know you did too, and I was helping you heal. So we can help children too. Now, we never talked to the actual child who was 4 years old. We just talked to her unconscious self, the 2 year old self that experienced the trauma, helped her to heal and integrate back into the present self. And the rash went away. Pretty cool.
Very cool.
Other things that people don't think about, like one of our clients asked us in a session, uh, why do I have this fear of being alone? Now, usually something like that is multi-level, and for her it certainly was. But the first thing that Re'Zhae saw was the client was 3 years old, and she was in the living room and had a little baby pen or whatever thing she was in, which she knew about. She remembered that, but she didn't remember this incident. So this is a 3-year-old's mind. And so she had an older brother, mother and father in the home, and they were all particularly busy that day doing stuff. They were all working on projects and weren't giving her any attention at all. They were very focused and moving around a lot. And there was something in her that wanted to connect, but no one was connecting with her emotionally. That's typical of a child. It's natural to want that. But what she did was concluded, oh, this is it. I'm on my own now. 3 years old. And it was a kind of a automatic definitive decision. It's like, okay, I can't rely on anybody. I'm on my own. And that connected with her adult fear of being alone. It's simple things like that that seem insignificant from an adult's point of view, but it's huge to a child's point of view that is experienced as a kind of trauma. And so we helped the adult person resolve that by understanding where it came from. And a lot of times when you get this information, it's like, oh, okay, even if you don't remember it, even if you never remember it, just hearing this information and us connecting with that younger self part can help that part resolve and realize, oh, that's not true. I'm not on my own now for the rest of my life. It doesn't matter if, later that day, well, now you're getting attention. It's that moment. Because remember, children are in the moment all the
Mhm.
time. It's that moment that got frozen in time and stuck in your aura and your unconscious psyche. And it's been governing your life. Pretty amazing, isn't it, Re'Zhae?
It is. It is. It's crazy sometimes to see how things that look so little and insignificant really affect you.
Yeah. Reminds me of another client who she brought forward an issue about like I can't I just feel incapable of things. I feel like I can't do things or do things well enough. And so I don't even try a lot of times. So when Roger looked into it, and I'm usually doing energy work and Roger's looking into it, I'm tuning into whatever I need to do during a what we call a dual session when we're working together. And of course, Roger can do these sessions by herself as well, providing those puzzle pieces. And I do sessions by myself, helping people to process them and provide whatever intuition I get. But this particular client, what Roger saw was she said, "I'm seeing you're 3 years old and you're in this toy car that's run by pedals, and but the toy car was really designed for an older child. She had an older sister. We knew that, a couple of years older. She said, your feet can't reach the pedals, and you're trying really hard to make this car go, and your feet can't reach the pedals. And an adult came and just plucked you out of the car and said, you can't do that. And that left this impression of, oh, I can't. I can't do that. And not understanding, a child can't understand that, oh, I'm just not, my legs aren't long enough. A child, there's a lot of trauma I have helped so many people with who had older siblings or neighborhood kids that were older who could do things that they themselves, the client, couldn't do because they were younger. And the child doesn't understand, oh, I'm not developed in my motor skills yet to be able to do that. And so I've helped a lot of clients with this belief in incapability just coming from those experiences. But what the really cool part about this story is with this particular client is she said, we had a toy car that had pedals. And so it was just another one of the examples. Roger, you're rocking it. You're right on. And so a lot of times clients will have those memories and or have some sort of association that really helps bring it to the present. So your mind isn't debating, did this really happen to me? I don't remember it all. I mean, sometimes you're going to go through that, but we do our best to help provide enough information that you remember to help you see, hey, we really are tapping in. And so that client then we helped her process and move through a lot of that. And she incorporated more capability, more of a sense of capability in herself. Now, there were more layers down the line to heal with that because that was very early on. That was a foundation. And so what happens is when all of us, when we have a foundational belief, then we have more experiences that reinforce that belief. Oh, see, I can't do this. See, I can't do that, to the point where then we don't even try anymore, because this is an example. Not realizing that it just came from a very young, limited perspective at the time. And that's not true. It's not real. So our goal is to constantly or continually get you back to your real self so that you can emanate that, live it, and your real self is relaxed. Your real self is at peace. Your real self is in touch with his or her or their abilities and what they're here for. So we love helping you with that. And so before we wrap up, Re'Zhae, is there anything else you want to add?
I was gonna say, yeah, it's crazy the conclusions we made when we were so little, how they run our lives today. It happens in a major way. So once you take those out, which seems something like you're like, wow, that shouldn't really matter, but it does. There's a whole effect that goes along with it. It always connects to our lives now. Things that happened when we were little.
Yes, and that's our goal, is to find out, particularly when a health issue or something is coming up. It's like, okay, once we get to what that's about in the past, it's not always obvious the connection. I'll often lead the questions to help Roger, because she's staying focused, tuning in when we're working together. And so I'll say, okay, why is that coming up now? And that's where we provide that connection point so that you can see it and heal it, resolve it. So we thank you all for listening today, and stay tuned for more. We're going to share more stories, more really interesting stuff coming up ahead in future episodes. And we welcome you back. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, and be sure to click the link below if you want to find out more details about working with us. Bye now.